Alrighty, good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one providing tools for providing spiritual tools for daily living. Reverend Tucker is back this week. She's just taking care of something really quick behind the scenes, so she will be here in just a minute. Actually, she's back, so
I'm back.
She's ready.
Thank you, Faith, for stepping in for me. Oh, you know how things are around the world. So yes, welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis, and the lovely lady that greeted you is my faithful assistant, Faith, who has been my assistant since the day she was born, basically. When she was about 3 weeks old, her dad brought her to church for the first time, and he used to work the soundboard, so he'd have the soundboard in one hand and her in the other. And so when she learned how to crawl, he let her go, and she came right up on stage like she owned the place, like she belonged there. So I had a portable mic at that time, so I would just step over her, but I'd just leave her there. And then when we would do announcements, I'd put her on the podium, and I think people watched the announcements or paid more attention to the announcements because she was up there. And then when she and her sister got older, they started doing affirmation cards at the end as an usher function. But she's grown up 6 blocks from my house and used to, her dad was a tow truck driver. And when he would go on out of town tows, he would drop the girls at my house. And so they'd hang out with me. And I'm a project person. I always have a project going on. So I got to see Faith's work. And so when she was about 14 and a half, she said, I want a real job this year. And so I said, well, come work for me. And so I hired her for my ozone business. And then when we went live for the pandemic, I said, do you want to be my ministerial assistant? And she said, yes. So she is the lady behind the curtain, kind of like the Wizard of Oz. You pull back the curtain, see an old man. Well, in our case, you see Faith. She does everything behind the scenes so that all I have to do basically is speak. And she's also, and so we ask that you say hi, hello, good morning, however you like to greet us. When we're in a facility, I can look out and see the shiny faces beaming back at me. Here, I don't get that luxury. I only get a number. I don't even get names, so I don't know who my audience is. So if you say hi, hello, good morning, Faith will answer you as me. And I always go back and check later to make sure, you know, there isn't something I can add. And that's only happened twice in like 4 years. So she's pretty good at knowing what I would say in any given situation. I think we have one brain between us. Anyway, she's also our soloist, and today she's going to be singing The Winds of Change by Karen Drucker. Aren't you proud of me? I remembered the song.
Good job. And I picked it this week too. Good job.
I know, right? That's funny. Anyway, so enjoy the service, and thank you, Faith, for being here. I couldn't do this without you. Love you. And then there's my partner in crime, the wise and powerful Oz, who was my first baby practitioner, meaning he took all of his training with me, except for one class that he took at Mile High. I'm looking for the little dog. She's here somewhere. I don't know where she is. And he was
the old man in front of the curtain.
Yeah, the old man is in front of the curtain and the young girl is behind. That's funny. That almost sounds bad. Okay, so anyway, Oz was a practitioner in our church for a long time, and our board president for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And then he moved off to Florida, and we could no longer have him in our service. So when we went live for the pandemic, I asked him if he'd be our practitioner of the day for us, and he was willing. And so here we are. He's almost always the practitioner of the day until we get another practitioner who wants to step into that. And sometimes I fill in for him when he's ushering at the event center. So Anyway, he is what we call our practitioner of the day, and that means that he does the invocation, the benediction, and then at the end of the service, after the service is over, he does our 1-minute miracle, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But thank you for being here, Oz. I couldn't do this without you. Love you. Okay, and then I always like to introduce our adjunct music team that we have. First is Albertina Giuffre, who comes in occasionally. She was a singer from like 2000 until like 2012, something like that. And then when we went live, she came back on. But she needed to take care of some personal things and asked for a leave of absence. And so Faith stepped in, and we've been doing it with Faith ever since. But Tina joins us for what she calls the crying season, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Memorial Day. And she's also with us for Christmas. Then we have the two ladies that do not appear on camera. However, without them, we could not do a regular church service. One is Karen Drucker, who has gifted us with all of her CDs at the time, which was like 20. And we got karaoke files and songbooks, so we'd have the lyrics and everything. So we do a lot of Karen Drucker's music. And then the other one is Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver, who asked me, she was the first one to ask me to do her music while we were here. So I always like to introduce them because they are such an integral part of our service. There is a watch party button that you can click on, invite all your friends so they can see what kind of Sunday service they can expect. And you can message them back and forth without disturbing anybody because it's a private chat. And so go ahead and click that watch party button and invite all your friends. All right. I'd like to invite you now to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Cats should get their collars.
The presence of God is right here, right now, wherever and whenever you are. For God is all things, animating all things, creating all things, and being all things, all simultaneously. The entire scope of the universe, from the intergalactic down to the subatomic, all enfolded into this one greater being that we know of as God. And that God is ever moving and ever changing. And things roll out and unfold, and experiences occur and interact with deja vu, with synchronicities, all as part of this interaction of God with God. I know that there are blessings that are unfolding at this very moment for each of us here and for all of us out there. And I know that those blessings all happen within that greater scope of God as we know it. I know this is good and very good, and I give thanks that it is so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. This next song is one of Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver's that she wrote while she was in practitioner training. And it's a great reminder for us to remember that we are all one.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. For God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I receive, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. Yes, we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it.
Yes, we are all one in it. What a great reminder that song is. So if you are here, please say hi, hello, good morning. Let us know that you're here, however you like. When we're in a facility, I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me. Here I get a number. I don't even get names, so it's nice to know who our audience is. And if you stop by later, just say hi. Just let us know that you dropped by. We have so many people from foreign countries that watch us like 8 hours later or 10 hours later or whatever it is. If you like something that you hear, whether it's something I say or Oz prays or Faith sings, by all means, use that thumbs up button. And if you love something, send us hearts because we love to get love. And if something strikes you as very powerful, you can always use that wow button. It lets us know that we're on track, and that feedback is very important to us. So without further ado, here is Faith singing The Winds of Change by Karen Drucker.
Thank you. Take me with you, I'm ready to go. Let the winds of change shape and flow. Now I am willing to see another part of me. Take me with you, I'm ready to go. Let the winds of change shape and blow. Now I am willing to see another part of me. Take me with you, I'm ready to go. Let the winds of change shape and blow. I am willing to start a brand new chapter in my heart. Take me with you, I'm ready to go. Let the winds of change shape and blow. I am willing to make a choice. This new path needs my voice. Take me with you, I'm ready to go. Let the wind of change shape and blow. 'Cause I am willing to let go. I surrender and I know I'm willing to let go. I surrender and I know I surrender and I know I surrender and I know.
Thank you, Faith. I really like that song quite a bit. She does it very well too. So the topic today is turn and face the change, and the winds of change are really blowing right now. Can you feel it? Some of you who are in other states may not be feeling it like we do in Colorado, but you can really feel that shift from summer to fall. And we are in the midst of that change right now. So it's interesting to be sitting on my patio one day and the next day it's too chilly to sit out there. It just happens like overnight. And my neighbor and I usually fight that. We really struggle against it usually. The last couple of years, I haven't struggled against it so much. Last year, my house, I didn't have any air conditioning all summer, so I was looking forward to the change in temperature. This year, I really haven't had much of a summer. I've been too busy to enjoy my patio or anything else. So I'm not really fighting it as much as I normally do because I get real attached to sitting out there. This year, I haven't really had a chance to do that. So it's not really bothering me that much. I'm sure it will once the snow starts because I'm really not a fan of winter. Fall isn't as bad, because at least I can still sit out there with a jacket. But once it starts to get really cold, I can't sit out there at all. So I am working on not struggling against it anymore. And this friend of mine a couple of years ago was talking to me about this show that was on, I think it was either Netflix or HBO, that was called Dirty John. And what it was it was a series based on the life of Betty Broderick. I don't know if you remember her in the news. It was like in the 80s or 90s, I think. But what happened is Betty put her husband John through medical school, working full-time. And then she put him through law school because he decided he wanted to be a lawyer. And they actually had 3 kids while she was working that hard and was so looking forward to the day when her husband would make a lot of money and she'd be able to just chill and raise her kids. Well, as the stereotype goes, he graduated from law school and started working at a firm and fell in love with the secretary. And so he left her. And, that's the same old story that happens all the time. But Betty, unfortunately, had so much of her emotional well-being invested in all of this that she couldn't let it go. And she would throw tantrums. She drove her car into his house at one point. She would go and sneak into their house when they were not there and rip up things, destroy things, whatever. And so the first whole season was all about her tantrums and how he dealt with it. For instance, he was supposed to be paying her $9,000 a month. I know he had millions, and she didn't feel like 9,000 was enough, but I don't know too many people who couldn't live comfortably on $9,000 a month. I know I could, but that wasn't what she expected. So anyway, she would throw these tantrums, and he would start deducting money out of that so that she wouldn't get as much as all the times that she would call and scream at him, or she'd, go in and destroy their property, like I said. And so she ended up owing him money by the time they went to court. The second season was all about, well, at the end of the first season, you see that she has a gun. She's standing at his door, and the gun fires, and then, of course, they cut. And you have to wait for season 2 to see if, anything actually happened. And as it turns out, she killed both him and his wife at the time. He married the other girl. But when they went to court, the judge awarded her $16,000 a month, which, again, is a lot of money. I mean, for me, it's a lot of money. Maybe there's people out there that wouldn't think that was a lot of money, but I think you can live very nicely on $16,000 a month, personally. But one of the things that she did that cost her children was he went off on a rendezvous with his wife, and he was due to return several hours later. And instead of waiting for him to get home, she was upset because he wasn't taking the kids when he was supposed to. So she dropped them at his door. And so when he came home, there were his 3 children sitting on his doorstep. And they'd been sitting there for several hours. So she lost custody of her children because that was neglect and abandonment. So on top of the betrayal, the financial betrayal, and the betrayal of the nice life that they were going to have, she then lost her kids, which was another betrayal. The reason I'm telling you all of this is because her inability to turn and face the change that had happened in her life was what cost her everything. She acted against her own self-interest in many ways. And because of that, she lost what she did have. She ended up owing him some ungodly amount of money because he kept reducing, the child support or the alimony or whatever it was, every time she'd have one of those tantrums. The second season was all about her going through the trial, and she was charged with murder of 2 people. And watching her go through all of this, and what was really evident to me was that she could not accept the change in her life. That she was so attached to her version of what her life was going to be like that she just could not allow herself to accept the change. And it's very important that we do. Not that we need to get to the extremes that Betty Broderick did, but even in our own life, in the small ways that we resist change, like me resisting the change of, fall coming, or winter. We resist, and what we resist persists. And because it persists, we just suffer. Now, Ram Dass says that pain is mandatory, but suffering is optional, meaning that we're going to have pain in our life, and it just is part of the process. But if we stay stuck in our ways and don't adapt to the change, that's when we begin to suffer. I remember Lynn and I studied with this holy man in the Red Path for 12 years, Native American holy man. And his thing was to make the wind our ally. And I didn't understand at first when he was talking about it until I've had some of the experiences I've had. And then I really got it that, we brace ourselves against change. Well, we brace ourselves against the wind, right? And so the idea was to, instead of closing in on ourselves and bracing ourselves against it, we open our shoulders, we open our heart, and we let the wind blow through us. And that's how you make the wind your ally. And it's that way in several aspects of life. Like massage is another one. I had one massage therapist that taught me to breathe through the pain. And so when I was in Vegas a couple of years ago, I really was having significant issues with my neck and my back and my legs. And I went to this massage therapist who started to work on my IT band. For those of you who don't know where that is, it's along the side of your leg where your hip connects to your leg. And it is one of the most painful places that you can get massage, especially if you have a tight IT band. And I knew that I had to suffer through it. I knew that that in the end, it would make a big difference for my legs, my back, and my neck. I knew that I would feel much, much better when she got done, but it was very, very painful. And so I just breathed through it. And she was like amazed at how well I was able to breathe through it, but I'd been taught the lesson already, right? And as I'm laying there and she's working on it and I'm trying to breathe through it, I remembered the wind being my ally. So I started to think of her hands and the pain it was causing as my ally, and that I needed to open up and let it blow through me, so to speak. And in doing so, I realized I was able to handle the pain much better than when I was struggling against it. Because our reaction to pain always is to push it away, and tense up. And when you do that, you cause yourself so much more pain. But that's what we do in our lives. Anytime we have a change that looks like it's from the outside, even when we implement the change, there's some growth in that we have to go through, growth pains and growing pains, I should say. The kid that lives with me now is like, I'm having growing pains. Her legs start to hurt her. But we have growing pains anytime there's a change. And there's 3 types of change, really. There's the change that we implement. Doesn't mean that we don't have grief. When we implement a change, we always have grief for the life that we had prior. And then there's the change that appears to come from nowhere, but really is because of our subjective material. And I will talk more about that in a minute. The third type of change is one that actually does come from the outside, and we have no control over it. The pandemic was that. COVID came, and there was nothing we could do about it. And there's still nothing we can do about it, except to know that this too shall pass. Not meaning that COVID will ever go away, because I don't believe it will. But the reaction that we have to it, that feeling of being out of control, that feeling of feeling hemmed in, or all of that too shall pass. And so I live by that credo, this too shall pass, because I do know that while I'm in reaction to something, then it's much more difficult for me to experience the kind of life that I would like to have. But the moment that I can say, this too shall pass, and relax and allow it to happen, then I don't suffer. I am able to experience the life I always wanted to have. Now, my solution to that is meditation and prayer. As soon as I start to feel those feelings of struggle, I get right away into meditation and prayer. And what that does for me is it allows me to have the space to allow myself to allow, if that makes any sense. And so, for instance, my husband had a lung transplant. It'll be 4 years this December. But a year prior to that, we still had to wear masks because they were prepping him to be able to have this surgery. And so he couldn't get sick. So I wore a mask before the pandemic, and my husband wore a mask before the pandemic. That was just part of our reality. Was it something we enjoyed? No. And I thought at first, just like everybody else, that, I can't wear a mask, I can't breathe, and whatever. But we started having to we would go into his doctor's, and we would do 6 to 7 hours at his doctor's office, and we had to have face masks the whole time. But I realized once I allowed it to happen, I allowed myself to wear the mask, I allowed myself to go with the flow, I was able to breathe just fine with the mask on. And so even at my office, I would wear a mask for like 8 hours. And I got to the point where I didn't even hardly notice I had it on. There were times like in Vegas when I go up to the room and my sister would say, You can take the mask off now. And I go, oh, I forgot I had it on. That's how I got to it. Not everybody's going to have that same, adaptation. But if we struggle against wearing a mask, then we're not going to be able to breathe. That's the reality of it. So I have been basically wearing a mask for 5 years. My husband finally died this past February. And now the doctors are telling me that whenever I'm going to be in somebody's face, I need to wear a mask because I have been wearing a mask for 5 years and I no longer have any antibodies for anything that's out there. So I, bit by bit, am exposing myself by going to the grocery store without a mask and that kind of thing. But when I'm working with clients, because I'm right up against their face, I wear a mask. And what I'm recognizing is that I could have fought against it. I could have struggled against it like everybody else was doing, and I would have suffered greatly. But because I was willing to allow it to be my new reality, I was able to experience the joy and the happiness and the peace that I could do because I was willing to adapt, right? And that's really what it's about, is our adapting to whatever the circumstances are. When there is an outside influence that comes in and changes something, we have to be able to adapt to it, to our new reality, as they say. And so if we don't struggle against the winds of change, if we can just allow it to move through us, to embrace it, to turn and face it, we'll be a lot happier. If not, we suffer. And so how do we make the winds of change our ally? Well, not stressing and straining, but instead opening to it. And so as things start to evolve in our lives, our world is all about change right now. For example, the coronavirus, while there were things that made it not a happy thing, restaurants closed and things happened to us that, changed our reality forever. But my nephew just got out of prison and he went in before the pandemic. And what's interesting is his point of view about things, like the idea that restaurants deliver. He's having a hard time adjusting to that you don't go out to restaurants anymore. You just have them delivered to your house. And that was one of the benefits of the pandemic. The same thing with groceries. You can now pick up your groceries and they'll put them in the car for you. That wasn't around before the pandemic. So one of the ways that we adjust to the changes in our life is we start to look for the little nugget of gold, or like Dr. Marjorie Staum, one of my mentor ministers, used to say, look for the good and praise it. And so I've been learning to do that, to be an appreciation for the things that have evolved as an effect or as things weren't that way before and now they are because of the pandemic. So I've been looking at that instead. And sooner or later, we will get to a place where we no longer fight the changes, where we can just go, okay, and this too, and it shall pass. It always does. Those feelings always pass eventually. I love the serenity prayer because it's God grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the reason that I really love this prayer is because it's so true. We really need the serenity to accept those things that we cannot change. I cannot will away the coronavirus. I can't will away the fact that my husband died. I can't will away the strife in the world right now. I can't will any of those things away. What I can do is I can allow myself to experience serenity, knowing that I can't change those things. And then we need the courage to change the things that we can, because when we have limiting beliefs, the only things that we can change are our thoughts, our beliefs, and our attitudes, right? And so because we can change those things, we need to have the courage to work on them. Now, I've been talking about the subjective mind a lot lately, and so I want to just touch base here because the things that appear to be from the outside that we have created through our subjective mind are an important piece of this too. Because let me put the teaching symbol up for you, for those of you who haven't been here before. This is our teaching symbol. And it's a representative of the creative process. So it begins with an unbroken unity. The circle represents an unbroken unity, meaning there's no beginning and there's no end. And in terms of God, I know you can't part God out, but in order for us to illustrate and teach, we kind of needed to part God out so that we could explain it easier. So you'll notice there's 3 parts to the circle. The top part is the conscious mind, which is God thinking us into being. And the middle portion is the stuff of God, kind of like the silly putty or the Play-Doh of the world. But it's made of God's stuff. So God thinks us into being, makes it of itself. And then the bottom part is form. And as you notice, the V goes from conscious mind through subjective mind into form and then returns back to the nothingness from which it came. Now that is the creative process. But it works the same way when we're talking about us as individuals. The conscious mind are those thoughts that, hey, I want to stop smoking. I want to eat better. Those are those conscious thoughts that we want to create a new reality from. I want to be prosperous. So say I begin to do affirmations in the conscious realm of I now easily and effortlessly attain and maintain an income of $10,000 a month or more, right? Everything that's in that middle section is like the hard drive of a computer, where all of the experiences we've ever had and our reactions to those experiences is stored. So if I'm doing that affirmation in the conscious mind, I meet the middle, and the middle says to me, oh, well, there's no way you can make $10,000 a month, right? And so it bounces up back into the conscious mind without any interaction in the bottom, meaning it does not manifest into anything. The other part of that that's important is noticing where we have created a reality in the subjective mind, not any conscious mind involvement whatsoever. That's the time where things appear to be coming from the outside, but are really created by us. Not that I'm blaming us for creating them. I'm just saying when we take responsibility for those things that are in the subjective mind that could cause that reality to shift and change, then we have power. So when you blame yourself, or when someone blames you, it takes your power away. So this is very powerful to know that sometimes when we have material in that middle portion, that it's going to create something in form, whether we want it to or not. So we begin to work with that subjective material as a way to adapt to the changes. Okay. All right. And then the wisdom to know the difference is really important, because if I don't know what I can change and what I can't change, then I'm stuck in that struggle mode. And again, I don't experience, whether that's abundance or love or health, I don't experience what I was intended to experience, right? And I'm not saying give in to the virus, for example. Just practice serenity with it, because there's some things we can change, and work on those things that we can change so that we're not at the mercy of the coronavirus or any of the changes that come from outside of us, or that appear to come from outside but are really because of something that's in our subjective mind. And it takes courage to change the things that we can, because even if there's a change you want, you're going to have some grief over what once was but is no longer. For instance, you get married, but you grieve your single life. You grieve the experiences that you used to have as a single person. It doesn't mean you don't want to be with that person. It doesn't mean that you aren't happy about the change. It just is normal for us to grieve the stuff that's gone before. Another one is, and Faith can understand this one so well. Another one is moving out. When you're 18, you want to move out. You want to have that freedom. You want to, have nobody telling you what to do. You want to be able to do what you want when you want. But the reality is when you turn 18 and you move out, now you're working so much, you really can't do the things that you wanted to do. Number one, you don't have the money, but number two, you're so tired after working all day. And so you begin to grieve the freedom that you had when you were living with your family, right? It doesn't mean that you don't want to be on your own. Doesn't mean that you don't love the freedom that you have. It just means that you have made a change and now there's grief over those things that you used to be able to enjoy when you were living in your mom or dad's house, because you didn't have to work in order to have to go out and do things. Think about what happened with the settlers who moved from Oklahoma to California, how different that felt and how it looked and how much they missed their way of life in Oklahoma, even if being in California was a good change that they welcomed, right? So, excuse me. So once you have serenity, courage, and wisdom, then you can launch off to the change itself. And you can be present in the moment and allow the winds of change to just blow right through you, making them your ally. Now, I've had times in my life where I have embraced the change, and because of it, I was able to manifest money, love, health, those kinds of things, and been able to live the life that I wanted to live. Hi, Fred, Kathy, Marlene, Joey, and Lynn. It's 11:11 for those of you who don't know. 11:11. My Dr. Fred Vogt, one of my mentor ministers, used to tell us that 11:11, that is when the world that the dead have gone to and the world that we live in open to each other. So there's communication that is able to happen. So ever since Dr. Fred died in I don't even know, 1998, I think it was, whenever I notice it's 11:11, I always say hi to them. Anyway, once we are in that place of power, we can finally accept the changes that are happening in our life without struggling against them, because what we resist persists. Now, if I'm resisting a change that's happening, then I'm suffering. And it just continues on and on and on. The moment that I can accept that the change has happened and be at peace with it, I'm not saying you're jumping up and down with joy that it happened, but once I can be at peace with it, I'm no longer struggling. I might experience some pain, but it's all good, right? So conscious change is just making up your mind that there's something you want to do, but you're going to have to embrace the unfamiliar. I started taking these classes with Marissa Pierce, and she was talking about the only way to actually make a change in your life is to make the things that you need to give up unfamiliar. So change the familiar to the unfamiliar and make the things that you've never done before familiar. And so just like working out at a gym, for example, when you first start going to the gym, it's very unfamiliar. All of the moves that you need to make, the equipment, all of that is really unfamiliar. But if you go every day, because they say it takes 21 days to form a habit, if you go every day for 21 days, then the workout now becomes familiar, and the old sitting at home watching TV or playing on your phone becomes the unfamiliar. I experienced that with that AIP diet that I was on. It was really crazy because when I first started doing it, I craved the carbs. I'm not a big sugar person, but I did crave carbs. I craved pasta and corn chips and nachos and that kind of thing. And on the AIP diet, autoimmune protocol, there was really literally nothing I could have. I was able to have a source of protein that was either grass-fed, grass-finished beef, free-range chicken, with no antibodies in them, I could have like uncured bacon, that kind of stuff. So I could have a source of protein, and there was like maybe 10 vegetables I was able to eat: broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, carrots, sweet potatoes. But there weren't that many. Asparagus, I could have asparagus. Peas, that was another one, but I'm not a big pea fan. So, but excuse me, that was my diet. And herbal teas and water and lots of salt, sea salt. And so, and there were oils that we added in, MCT oil and coconut oil and that kind of thing. What was interesting is I struggled against the diet at first because I missed my eggs. God, eggs were so important to me. I missed a lot of things. Pepper. I couldn't have any form of pepper, red pepper, black pepper, any of it. And then I did that for 4.5 months, and I knew that I couldn't eat that way forever. So I stopped. And what's interesting is nowadays, if I eat pizza, for example, I don't feel good. I realize now that the changes that I made really made a difference for me. And so the struggle that I had with that at the very beginning didn't pay off. But once I accepted that that was the way I was going to eat, at least for that 4.5 months, then I was able to see the changes in my body, feel the changes in my body, I should say. And nowadays, when I eat something that I really shouldn't have because it causes inflammation, nowadays I realize that that's what the change was all about. And that's a lot of times what happens. We have hindsight about it. But for those of you, because voting is happening now, now, for those of you who have never voted, remember that it will be unfamiliar when you go in. It will feel very unfamiliar. But once you vote, it will become a familiar thing. And I want to encourage you, whoever you're going to be voting for, please vote. Your voice is important to this nation. And so when you vote, you claim your power. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Because I just wanted, because change is so inevitable right now. I just want to put that in there so that I know I've already voted. I wanted to get it out of the way. My neighbor next door said, "Oh, I haven't voted yet." And I said, you know, the way my life works right now, I don't want anything hanging out that I haven't gotten done, because if I wait till the last minute, then I have to wait in long lines to put the thing in the ballot box. And I don't want to do that. So I went ahead and voted. But I encourage you to vote. Exercise the power that you have. Make sure that you are utilizing the God power that you were given in the creation of you. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. So this week, practice with me letting the winds of change blow through you. Just whatever changes start to come up, just remember that when you open yourselves to those changes and you allow it to blow through you, you can then have that life that you've always wanted to have. It's there at the ready for you. All right, let's have a prayer. Oh, I just now tune my awareness to the infinite power, the infinite presence, the infinite life of God. To that place within me that knows beyond human understanding just how powerful God is, how beautiful, how loving, how amazing God is. And I know that that is where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very life, my very being. It is who and what I am. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages. Is God flowing through me like it flows through all of life. I know the same truth is so for the team that God has provided me. Because that same wisdom of the ages flows through all of us so perfectly that every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by it. It infiltrates every decision that we make, every change that occurs. I know that same truth for everyone who is here today, whether in real time or later on. For that same infinite wisdom of the ages that flows through all of life, flows through every one of us. I bless this week with that knowingness that with the change that's coming, the changes that are coming, there is peace, there is power, there is prosperity, there is life, there is love, there is health. That these changes represent God moving as a changeless reality, moving through us as we adapt and allow the winds of change to blow through us. There is comfort there in that changeless reality. I know the same truth to be so for every name that's in the ministry of prayer this week, because I do know whatever condition they are experiencing, that peace and power of God are the answer. So I bless them. I open for them the curtains of life and reveal that truth as I claim their good in their name, here and now, as done. So I fill my heart with gratitude right now for that which is done, for being in service in this way. And I just let it be. And so it is. Amen. I don't know what happened, but okay.
The music stopped, and it would have taken us longer to start it and unmute it again than for you to just finish.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm a blessing. I know, guys. I'm falling short today. You are the heart. You are the voice of spirits on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world.
Thank you, Faith. Now is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to share your gratitude for that which you have received in physical form, perhaps, or perhaps you've created it in the mind of God and not yet experienced it in the physical realm. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to go to www.oasiscsl.org and say the offering affirmation with me, which is about 2/3 down the page. And then underneath that is a Contribute Now button. But let me just talk briefly about what Contribute Now means, what your contribution means. We have a vision. Our vision is a healed world, and I mean globally. And our mission is healing the world one person at a time. In order to get to that vision, unfortunately, there are costs. We aren't in a facility, so there's no longer any rent or utilities or any of the costs that are associated with having a facility. However, we do pay Faith for her time And we also have to pay for marketing to reach the world. We have people from Bangladesh, India, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Germany, Holland, and Great Britain or England right now that tune into our program. So we are really blessed to have most of those countries who have the ability to find us. But we need to market to the whole world, the global world, in order to reach our vision. So when you contribute, you are contributing to the mission for us to get to our vision. So come with me right now, whether that's in real time or later on, to www.oasiscsl.org and say this offering affirmation with me. This perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. All right, hit that contribute now button and help us with our mission to get to our vision. All right. The first announcement I'd like to make is we have this wonderful group of licensed practitioners from coast to coast that serve our church. The first way that they serve our church is by doing prayer every day for a week on any prayer requests that we have. So if you would like prayer for something, please put it in the comments section. And if you don't want it to be public, just DM Faith and she'll make sure our God Squad gets it. That's what we call our licensed practitioners, because I love the imagery of them walking in and taking charge. So we call them the God Squad. We have always called them the God Squad. I think we started calling them that in like 2001, something like that. Anyway, and so if you would like prayer for something, put it in the comment section or DM Faith, and she'll make sure that the God Squad gets those. They will pray on those requests every day for a week. Another way that the licensed practitioners serve our church is by providing spiritual guidance by appointment for a fee. Now, you will reach out to them on Facebook, probably by messenger, and let them know that you would like a session of spiritual guidance, and they will tell you how to pay for it. I don't get involved in any of that. Every practitioner is their own business. So some use Venmo, some Cash App, some Wise, some Zelle, some PayPal. But again, I don't get involved in that. They'll tell you how to pay for it, and then they will reach out to you by video chat at your appointed time. So, and the third way that our licensed practitioners serve our church is by being our practitioner of the day, which Oz is almost every week. So that means he does the invocation, the benediction, and he's available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. Not a time for prayer, just a time where you can let him know whatever you are experiencing, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then. And you can reach out to him through video chat right after the service ends. If he doesn't answer right away, it probably means he's on with someone else, and you can try him back later. All right. I'm not going to do Brooks and Bailey this week because we're running out of time. I got too long-winded. So just quickly, we're going to do the websites for the two musicians. So the first one is Reverend Fairy Lane Silver's website. She doesn't have a way to change her website to tell you how to pay for it, so you'll have to reach out to her by email. She travels around the country singing and has the CDs in her trunk, and she is always right away. Once you've paid for it, she sends it out. The other one is Karen Drucker, whose website does work. You can buy it by the song, the CD, the karaoke file, the songbook. Excuse me. And you can pay for it right then and there. So definitely support these two ladies. We like to support those who support us. Then you can check out our website at www.oasiscsl. We know it's out of date. Things keep conspiring to keep us from working on it. You'll find pictures of your spiritual family there. But if you want to listen to sermons, we have the video sermons on YouTube and the audio sermons on SoundCloud. You can find them under S. Tucker. All right. I'm turning this over to Oz.
And I know that as God is writing the next chapter in our lives, we are ready to turn the page and accept and embrace the changes that come forward our way. knowing that it is all supported and all being created in the highest and best possible way. I give thanks that this is so, and I let it be, and so it is.
And so it is. I think we're going to end exactly at 11:30. Yep. That's
Yep.
pretty. Okay, join us next week and every week at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. I believe next week we're going to be talking about superstition because it's Halloween weekend, right?
Mhm.
All right, so that's going to be a great week, and every week is a great week, but join us every week, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Until then, we love you. There's 1,000 places you could be on a Sunday morning, and you are here with us, and we appreciate that. So take care. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.